Hey guys, what's up? As you know, I had done the Ancestry.com DNA kit and I got my results and I posted them. And I got a comment that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I decided I wanted to share with you guys because for some reason, this comment irritated my soul to no end. And it still does. So I got a comment of a guy. I said in the video I was surprised and I'm kind of sad that I'm not a lot more African than what I am. I thought I would be a lot more. This person decided to write, "Why would you be more African? Your last name is Dial." That is I think he said Polish last name. And it being Polish, you wouldn't be, unless you came from slavery. And I'm sitting there and I'm telling him, who are you to tell me? And he wrote a whole novel, like a whole novel about this shit. Like, he basically went on Wikipedia, copied and pasted the whole shit on my thing. Really, bitch? So, I'm sitting here and I'm, like, dumbfounded by the fact that you would sit there and even think that was appropriate to tell me about my last name, like I'm not aware of how I got my last name. So, I thought I'd share with you guys, for people who don't know, how black people came about with the last names that we have. Black people were brought here during the slave trade. They were dropped off where they were dropped off at. Some were dropped off in the Caribbean, some were dropped off in Latin American countries, some were dropped off here, and so on and so forth. When they were taken and they were brought here, they were stripped of their African identities, their names, their last names, anything that had to do with Africa, they were stripped of, and they were given Western names. So, when you saw somebody and you saw slaves, they would have a name like John, Sarah, Toby, etc. And then their last names, some of their last names, coincided with what they did. So if you worked in the field, you may have the last name of Toby Cotton because you worked in the field of cotton. Some slaves had the last names of their slave owners, and then some slaves had their last names of their slave owners because their slave masters, men and women, happened to be their parents. And their parent wanted them to have the same last name. You didn't have the same rights. Oh no. You still weren't one of us. I'm going to acknowledge you, and I may love you. Sorry. But I'm not going to treat you like you're my white kid. So some people got names like that. But when slavery was demolished and people were set free, they were allowed to choose their own names. And because a lot of them didn't remember their African names, they didn't want to keep the names of their slave owners. They didn't want to keep the names there. But they didn't remember their African names. A lot of people were born into slavery, so they never had African names. They never knew what it was like to be in Africa. They would drop everything their slave owners gave them, and they would pick names like Freedom, or they would pick names like Jackson, Jefferson, Washington. These are people who help demolish slavery. So you see a lot of black people with the name Jackson. You see a lot of people with the last name Washington, and so forth, Jefferson, so forth. It's because of that. Some slaves just didn't know what to do, so they took on the last name of their slave owners. And there's some people who actually didn't know anything more, so they actually took on that name because that's what they knew. My last name right now is a hyphen name. I have my husband's last name and my last name that I was born with, but my maiden name is Dial. I know how I got my name. I'm aware how my name came about, especially since Dial is not a very common name. Like most of the Dials that I've seen, most of the Dials who are black and I'm related to. So I'm very sure if your last name is Dial and you're black, we're related somehow. But and I'm not even exaggerating. All the Dials I have met have been related to me. People that I've never seen in my life, and I've met, and they're like, "Oh my God, I know who you are. If your last name is Dial, your grandma." Yeah, it's been like that. But I've also met white Dials, and the white Dials are very shy, except for one girl on Facebook. So they had these T-shirts that pop up on Facebook time to time that have your last name on it or whatever, and it says "We do best." And the girl says, "We all need to get together, all of us, not just white, not just black, all of us, because we're related somehow." And she's a white girl, and it was very poignant to. She acknowledged, somehow we're all related. It may not be a good thing that we're like how we became all related, but we're all related and we're all connected somehow, especially when you have a name that's really rare. I'm very aware how I got my last name, how my family got their last name. I don't need you to have the nerve to tell me what I am. I know my history as a black person. And for you to be a non-black person trying to school me is the most asinine thing possible that you can do. I'm gonna need you to have several seats. I'm also gonna need the black people who are very upset that they don't have Native American in them to stop going on people pages, white, black, whatever, and tell them they can't be Native American. I had a girl come on my page, and she made a comment: "Blacks have Native. Blacks are Native." I said, "Not all blacks are Native." She said, got really pissed off and said, "I don't speak in absolutes. I didn't say that." Well, yeah, you did, bitch. I was like, "You probably tested and didn't get any Native, right?" Her comeback was, "I'm 36% Cuban." What does that got to do with anything? Okay, most random ass number. How do you know you're 36% Cuban? Where did you get that shit from? But whatever. My whole point of this is telling somebody about their last name, especially a white person or a non-black person trying to tell me as a black person about how I came to be with my last name is very idiotic. We know. Don't sit there and assume that a lot of black people don't know where they come from. Some people don't know, but I do. I actually have very enlightened family. My dad and my grandparents and my grandpa Mel, I miss him a lot. Like, we had stories. I can tell you that I know somebody who used to be alive in my family who was a slave. I can tell you that I know people who were part of the civil rights movement. I know a lot because I'm lucky enough to have parents and grandparents and great aunts and stuff like that who are still alive who can tell me these things. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you guys. I'll probably do another video about my DNA experience and about experience about getting reached out to by people from the list. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, bye. I don't know what I'm doing.